Thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Naomi Johnson, an establishing author, and I'm here with the Never Settle brand to talk about my book and my journey in creating balancing life. I realized that a lot of the stuff that I go through isn't just for me, and I had a pretty good bit of wisdom at a young age, and people would come to me for advice and stuff, and I already write like in journals and different things like that, so I figured, okay, I can take some of the things that I learned from the year after I graduated from high school, everything I learned in that journey, and then part of college, a little bit of college, and ended up putting it like in a book to help people, balance their life. Because there's a lot of stuff that schools teach you academically, but then they don't teach you about learning how to let people go and different things like that. So, yeah.
What was the hardest thing about writing your book?
The financial side of it, because I'm a full-time student, and I'm trying to get a degree. And I was working at the Weston at the time, and I made a decent amount of money, but I was still having to pay for like tuition and different things like that. And that was probably the biggest test of faith for me, was the financial area of all of this, because it was close to over $1,000 that I did not have. And I just prayed to God that He would make a way for this to get published and for it to be paid in full, for me not to have to pay out of pocket and stuff like that. And friends, family, some people that I didn't even know like started helping out to pay for it. Like I would get $50 donations from like random people. So it was super dope, and it took time. Like I really had to be really patient with it too, because there were certain times where I got really discouraged because I wasn't meeting certain deadlines, but luckily the publishing company that I did it through were very graceful with the time limit that I had to get it paid. So it was literally all God. The first thing, because I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about that they were stressing about the organization of their book. I say, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the organization, and don't stress so much about grammatical errors, and just free write. Just get everything you have out, and because you'll spend too much time, you'll end up being overthinking it, and then be very critical about the things that you put down on paper trying to please other people, and don't focus on that. Focus on whatever you feel led to put out on paper, and it's eventually going to flow, and you'll have time to go back when you go through your revisions and different things like that. And the second thing would be to get a writing coach, because I had the publishing company that I did it through, they did a 30-day book writing challenge. So I wrote my book in 30 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm Broadway now. I've gone Broadway. Which way? That way. That way. Which way? That way. Which way? That way. Yes. Which way? That way. Oh, which way? That way. That way. Which way, huh? That way. Which way? That way. Which way? That way.
But the writing coach helped like tremendously, because we did it like through email, and so she would give me certain deadlines for maybe like one, 2, or 3 chapters like every 2 weeks or so, and I would have to send that off to her, and then she would send it back with any suggestions, like correcting or changing certain things. But she was on me. She was encouraging, which was extremely helpful whenever I started to second guess myself and stuff, or I started to get really down on myself. But she was definitely on me about deadlines. So you definitely want to have, even if it's just a writing coach or just an accountability person, like a friend or whatever, that's actually going to be on top of you about getting it done. Because we can say for years, like, oh, I'm going to write a book. It's going to be great. 3 years later, you still ain't written nothing like on a piece of paper. And so you need somebody that's actually going to have faith in that dream that you have, because I never would have thought about writing a book until I actually had a friend who was a pastor and told me I was going to write a book about my life. And I was like, well, I don't know about it. But that, I think that planted a seed of faith and an idea into me. And then I ended up writing it. Writing always came easy to me. I second guessed it at first because I took an advanced English class in high school, but I didn't pass the exam, like to get the credit, the college credit or whatever. So, but I still wrote a book. So it's just like, don't limit yourself to anything. And then what was the last one?
Take your time.
So the last one, oh yeah, be patient and then have faith, and quality over quantity. Because it is not that thick. But I love that it's not that thick, because our generation don't want to read anyways. Like, we don't pick up newspapers. We don't want to read in class. For me personally, I hate reading when I'm forced to read. So like if a teacher assigns something to me for me to read and I don't want to read that, it's really difficult for me to sit down and really like get into it. But if I'm reading on my leisure time, I read plenty of books like on my free time and stuff. But that's what I just love about just the size of it, because it's not intimidating, and it's perfect for if you're coming out of high school or college, or even if you're older, because I've had older people purchase it and I've heard great things that it's helped them with. And then it's interactive too, so I have questions at the end of each chapter, like reflection questions, so that you can take back control of your own life, pretty much. So like one of my chapters is called Know Your Limit. Knowing when to say no, because that was my issue. My sophomore year, that's really where this entire thing was birthed from, was my experience from my sophomore year. I was heavily involved on campus in like about 8 different organizations, and I was like a really pivotal like leader on each organization, and I had multiple events and like the same days, and it was stressing me out. And then I had class and I had work and family and trying to keep up with social life and everything else, and it piqued my anxiety and stuff. And I remember I had a breakdown one day. I left class early because I went to go purchase some candy for an event. Don't do that. Prioritize. Class comes before everything else. But I had a breakdown on my way to the store because I was like, I can't do this anymore. And it got so bad, I was getting stressed so bad to the point to where like I didn't want to die, but I wanted to get into a car wreck just so I had an excuse to be like in the hospital, so people wouldn't feel like I wouldn't feel bad for saying no, kind of thing, or feel bad for taking a break because I'd be in the hospital. Like you can't be mad at me for being in the hospital, kind of thing. And so I was such a people pleaser and stuff, so it was causing more stress into my life. But now I've learned from that, like you can't please everybody, it's just not going to work, and you have to be okay with that. And no is probably the most powerful word that is in my vocabulary, because I have such a big heart. But saying no is so important for me to do, and I'll overthink it too. It'll take me maybe about 2 minutes just to say no to somebody about something. I'm just like, okay, maybe I can do it this way, or maybe I won't go here and then do this for them. It's like, no, it's okay. You go take a break. You're doing great. So, yeah.
Awesome. Do you have anybody you want to thank, shout out?
I do. Actually, Pastor Howard and Samantha Grimes. They're the ones who kind of snatched me up my freshman year, and he was the one who actually like prophesied to me that I was going to end up writing a book. And my pastor and my church, of course, Nation's Worship Assembly, Huntsville, because of how much they have poured into me and helped equip me and build me into the woman that I am today. Because I used to be very, very insecure, very quiet, and very shy. But now I'm breaking out of that, and I love sharing my story, and I love helping other people. So, yeah, and my friends, of course.
Awesome. Well, good deal. That ends the interview.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. Can you close the interview by saying, big dogs never settle?
Oh yes, big dogs never settle. Period.
All right. Perfect.